I'm going to show you here is some of the books that inspired my love of reading, books I read as a child or as a teenager that made me a reader and that helped shape the remarkable good taste I have in the books that I read. And we're going to start by going back to when I was barely more than a toddler with The Silly Book. I had my mom check this out of the local library several times in succession, and I just remember thinking it was hilarious. Today, the only joke I remember is that it started with goodbye on the first page and hello on the last page. In my barely post-toddler mind, this was comedy gold. Now, I acquired my own copy of Road Race Around the World in an interesting way. When I was, I'm going to say second grade, third grade, something like that, a classmate had ordered a copy of this through the Scholastic reading program that used to exist in elementary schools. I looked through it and I saw a picture of one of the cars that took took part in this 1907 New York to Paris road race. That's what the book's about. And this picture was shown with a windmill in the background. In my 7-year-old mind, I saw this as the windmill mounted on the car and assumed it was powered by wind. And that was awesome enough in my mind to where I just ordered my own copy of the book. I discovered there was no windmill-powered car, but I was okay with that because this was a pretty awesome book anyway. Our Army at War, number 221. Now, this is the first comic book I owned, after trading 3 small plastic toy astronauts to another kid on the school bus in order to get my hands on it. I saw him with it one day. I said, "Ooh, can I trade?" And I thought about these little toy astronauts I had. And I said, "I'll bring these. Can I trade?" And he said, "Okay." And boom, I owned a comic book. Though I had no thought about the name of the artist at that young age. It turned out to be illustrated by Russ Heath, one of the best comic book artists ever. I remember trying to tell my parents and my siblings about how awesome this book was and not quite understanding why no one else thought it was the most wonderful thing in the world. You know, I guess in the end, I'm the only one in my family with really remarkable good taste. Now here we have 2 little big books that I read repeatedly as a child. The Fantastic Four and House of Horrors and Major Matt Mason and Moon Mission. And these are engaging stories that are really designed to fire a child's imagination, with each page of prose facing a full-page illustration. It was Herb Trimpe did the Fantastic Four. Major Matt Mason, I believe, was Dan Spiegel. And it's just fun artwork. I own copies of these as an adult, and I still enjoy looking through them just because they're so well done. G.I. War Tales #1 by DC Comics. It reprinted one of the classic War That Time Forgot stories, which when I bought this off the rack at 7-Eleven, I had not seen one of those stories yet and didn't know they existed until I got this issue. And this is World War II soldiers fighting dinosaurs. I had no idea that the world was capable of containing anything this wonderful. The American Heritage Illustrated History of the United States. Now, I'm not 100% sure that the image I found of one of the volumes of this is the same edition that we had as kids. But these were on a shelf in our home growing up. And being a bloody-minded boy, I read the volumes on the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and World War II several times before I got around to reading the entire set. Now, these books, along with a biography of John Paul Jones and a book about the Battle of Iwo Jima, both of which I repeatedly checked out of my elementary school library, these books gave me a love of history and a lifelong interest in military history. The Rat Patrol, the Iron Monster Raid, and Garrison Guerrillas, the Fear Formula, both published by Whitman. And Whitman had a whole series of these hardcover books written for kids based on then current television series. These are the 2 I owned as a kid, and I can testify from these and from others I've required collecting them as an adult that they did not stint on quality because they were aimed at children. These are really well-written, often intensely exciting stories. And these 2 I read as a kid until they just literally fell apart. I have reacquired them as an adult, and I'm just astonished by how how much good taste I had as a child in thinking and in appreciating how good these were. Fantastic Four by Isaac Asimov is the novelization of the movie from the 1960s. I think this image is not the same cover as the one that I had as a kid, but I'm not. In fact, I'm sure it's not, because he wrote a sort of sequel, I think in the 1980s. So this isn't the same cover as the one I was a kid, but it's representative of how cool the book was. I read this after seeing the movie on TV, and I think it is the first adult level book that I ever read. I'm pretty sure that's true, although I'm not absolutely sure. And I appreciated the way that Asimov filled in plot holes, although I probably didn't even notice the plot holes while I was watching the movie. The concept of shrieking down a sub and piloting it through someone's body was yet another concept that grabbed hold of my child's imagination. Where Eagles Dare by Alistair MacLean. I saw the movie version of Where Eagles Dare on TV, 10, 11 years old maybe, and though I love the over-the-top gun battles and explosions, I got lost trying to follow the complicated plot. I really do think the movie actually unfolds that plot very effectively. If you're watching it as a grown-up, you can follow all the twists and turns. But as a 10, 11-year-old, I got lost. So the next day, I saw the novel on the paperback rack at Eckert's drugstore. And I still remember gasping at the sight of it. I literally gasped, the book of that movie. Paper route money was spent, and I devoured the novel. I also figured out the plot from reading the novel. So for birthdays and Christmases after that, I could give my parents a list of Alistair MacLean novels that I owned and tell them, yeah, anything else by him. That'd be a great present. One of my best Christmas memories, maybe 14 years old, is staying up until 4 a.m. reading Force 10 from Navarone because I literally could not put it down. The Shadow, Hands in the Dark by Maxwell Grant, which was actually a house name. The writer who wrote this is named Walter Gibson, although I probably didn't know that at the time. I saw this one at the paperback rack at Winn-Dixie. And I had recently acquired an LP that contained 2 episodes of the Shadow radio show from the 1930s, which is probably the beginning of my love of old-time radio. And I remember actually whining to my mom when we were in the record store, can you buy me this? Can you buy me this? I was probably a little too old to be whining, but it worked, so what the heck. And anyway, when I saw this, I had to read it. And it's a great book. That cover, by the way, was a mistake. This was the cover intended for the 6th book in this paperback reprint series, the Crime Cult. And this one was later reprinted with the proper cover on it, but this is the one I owned as a kid. And I thought it was an amazing cover. Didn't really worry that much that it didn't fit any scenes in the book itself. And the book itself was wonderful. It was just another can't put it down reading experience. It's a reason why I'm still a Shadow fan today, that I've read most of the original novels by now in my life, and listened to just about all the surviving episodes of the radio series. So there you have it. There are the books that made me a reader. There are the books that gave me the remarkable good taste that will one day save Western civilization. And just thank you for watching this. I'll be back with a video at the end of September 2025 with what I've read this month video. Thank you for listening.